Good morning. Today I'm going to be installing this camera and this reversing camera to my Land Rover Freelander. Obviously, a few things to think about before you take on this is locations of both the cameras. Obviously, the main camera unit with the display on the back should be located at the top of the windscreen, central if at all possible. And the reversing camera is solely down to your particular vehicle and whether you've got a good enough place to mount it. Unfortunately, in my case, I have a big spare wheel in the back of my car, so mounting it central and high enough is quite a difficult achievement. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mount the camera here. That's pretty much central of the tow bar, so I can see when I'm reversing, I can see if my caravan is going to line up with my tow bar. Okay, I've had to remove the inside door card. This is to see what's happening inside. On the outside, I've removed my spare wheel. This is going to help me, as in, I've found a location here. I can put the wire through for the camera. So the wire is going to go through here, and it's going to link up in the middle. This is then going to screw here. Now with this kit comes a tiny little double-sided sticky pad with 2 screws. So I am going to mount this back to the bracket first, size it up, stick it on, locate the screws, put the spare wheel back on, and then see how that looks, and then we'll go on to the wiring inside. Right, the camera is now installed underneath the spare wheel, and the wire is coming through to the inside here. Next thing to note is the location of your reversing light. So obviously mine, I've got one on either side, which makes it a bit easier. So effectively I've got to get the new wire now to connect through this. So I've got to come through this door, up through this wire, out to the reversing light. I'll leave that tail then there ready to connect later. Then I've got to run the wire then. Obviously this end connects directly to the camera, so this end has got to run back to front. Right, and to get this through here, I've basically pulled this out of that hole, pulled this out of that hole, and thread it through, obviously, this end first, because you're going to have a very difficult time if you decide to plug this end in first and then run it back, because you're going to have to get 2 cables through this. So you're better off starting at the back, bring this cable straight through. Obviously if you've got a hatch boot, this will be the same at the top. It's just a dust protector and weather sealer for the holes. Right, one thing I'd also like to add at this stage after this, do not be afraid of pulling off your rubbers or your trims, as long as you keep the screws tight, and if you feel any resistance, don't pull until you find out what's causing the resistance. So obviously once you remove these panels, then you'll be able to access a route and a path to the back of the reverse light. Right then, this wire is now through here. This has been pushed back in, and I fed it through this little gap into the back of this panel. From there I've run down behind the panel, and my wire has come out here, and I've pushed it along. I've chosen the bottom route, and I've come out here. I'm at the point now where I've come along under the seat, along the door edge. I've come here, so I've reached the front door pillar, and this point is due to note that the power lead also needs to go up. So you might as well, what I would do is get the 2 ends together and possibly put a piece of tape around so they both end up the same length, and then feed them up and over. Right then, I've removed this door rubber, come up the door pillar up, pulled this off, pulled this down and tucked the wires up here. So now I've got these 2 tails running down here. Now this is a good time to get your camera and find a good mounting location, because you want them wires to be nice and concealed. So here she blows, the camera. I'll find a location for this, plug here. Luckily it only takes a suction cup, so there you go, that should be fine for me. Plug these in now, then I can follow these wires back down tuck them in, put the door rubbers back on, take the charging lead and follow that underneath the dash back to here, the charging socket. This wire now traces underneath there, back underneath as we discussed. So only thing I have to do now is let's turn on the ignition. There you go, light is illuminated to say that the live is now active. Camera is now turning on. There you go. Now if you notice, I got no TF card in there at the moment, but this is your front camera and that is your back camera. Now you could leave it like this, or what you could do, if you want this reverse image to take over the whole screen when you put it into reverse, then you have to wire up the red and black wire that we showed in the beginning of the video. Right, now at the back of the car, remove the screws from the rear light cluster so you can get access to the actual wires and light. This is the cable that coincides with the camera, so obviously it's a DC system, so you've got one in, one out, or live and ground. Same on here, live and ground. So I'm going to splice these cables. I'm not a cowboy, so I'm not going to do a shoddly. I'm going to strip the cables back and solder the new wires back. And then whenever this reverse light is triggered by putting it into gear, that's also going to send a signal up this switch, which basically is a micro switch to convert the full screen to the reverse camera. So yeah, I'll solder this and show you what it looks like after. As if by magic, soldered on. So I'm going to wrap these now with insulation tape, because obviously I can't get heat shrink on a T-joint. So yeah, and then we will go and test it. Let's try it now. Obviously turn the ignition on. There's our picture. Right, let's stick it into reverse. There you go. Back into first. And then there's a button under here. You can switch it so it's just to the video without the reverse, but then obviously when you click it into reverse it goes back to reverse and then back to full screen forward facing video. So yeah, that's the install. Thank you for watching.